everybody ripped, to hell or high water every single week for their passing game. The passing game coordinator of that team has been elevated to the quarterback, or elevated, moved. I don't know what you want to call it. Has become the quarterback coach of this team now. Parks Fraser.
I was thinking about the perception is passing game coordinator would be ahead of quarterbacks coach, but it's not true. Again,
I kind of like what you said. I agree.
Yeah, quarterbacks coach is more important. It's actually, it's like assistant head coach. It's like you would think assistant head coach would be ahead of offensive coordinator. It's not.
So do you think this is an upgrade for Parks Fraser?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he got promoted.
So Parks Fraser gets the promotion. Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody for being here today. All right, John, next segment I want to hit on. Yesterday, you started to see some of the league bookkeeping happening, and a lot of it happened in Miami with the release of Bradley Chubb. Tyreek Hill, all right, is a free agent. I think he's been released, or I don't know if he's a free agent or how exactly that works. You can give me the full clarity on that situation. But he's not going to be in Miami anymore. What do you think, John? A couple names out there. I think Bradley Chubb would actually be a good fit. If you remember, everybody, when they traded for Jalen Phillips, the other name in that conversation was Bradley Chubb, both Miami Dolphins players. And Bradley Chubb, John, I thought he was older. He is old, but he's 29. He'll be 30 at the start of the season next year. Turns 30 in June. But younger than I thought. Do you think Bradley Chubb is worth a flyer for this team, or a one-year deal potentially to bring in to bolster potentially that edge group? What do you think of Bradley Chubb on the market and any of the other names that hit?
Yeah, it's #no season. I never know when it's going to start.
and
the Miami Dolphins started it on, and I made that note. They started #no season.
Is that what you're calling it? #no? I love it.
On Monday, February 16th. Yeah, it's a joke between Mike Gill and I. By the way, have you seen Gill?
I saw him. He's got
videos with
his head. Oh man,
yeah.
He's looking out there, John.
Anyway, I hope be well, Mike.
I might have to pull up a picture of Mike Gill tomorrow in his Wednesday spot, where we normally have him, and show the people what Mike Gill is up to.
So yeah, I've been joking on his show for years. I call it #no season because everybody asks, every Eagles fan asks about any name they know. Could the Eagles? No, no.
Well, I do think Bradley's more
95% of the time. In the case of Bradley Chubb, 30 is a dirty word. He's turning 30, as he mentioned, in June.
Yeah.
He has, he's played a lot of football too. So he's had a lot of injuries over the years. Still a good player. I think he'll get more than 1 year from somewhere, but that's where he would be for this team. If you could bring him in later in the process on a 1-year deal, then maybe you start talking about it. But I think he's still effective enough and coming off a decent season to where he'll get multiple years from a more edge rushing desperate team. But the Eagles are going big game hunting, whether it's paying Jalen Phillips or whether it's going to get Maxx Crosby or something like that. They're going big game hunting. They're not bringing in a 30-year-old rotational guy, which is what he would be here. Still a decent player. It's not about that. It's
productive.
But yeah, I mean they need the headliner. And he's not a headliner at this stage. And that's what the Eagles will be looking for.
So you think they're going splash and potentially in the end?
Well, no, I mean, I think they're going Jalen Phillips.
Right.
So I don't think people will think that bringing back their own players as players.
They sign Jalen Phillips then. I mean, they're not going to go splash after that. Would Bradley Chubb be a good name to fill in with them? I mean,
no, because I don't think he's at that level where, he again, if you could get him for a 1-year veteran minimum, sure, but that's not realistic. So no, he's in the middle. He's #no because he's in the middle. He's not a headliner, but You're not bringing him in to be the fourth rotational guy. That's what you need. Because Nolan Smith is still a big part of it. Jalen Hunt is still a big part of it. And you want the headliner. And if that's not going to be Jalen Phillips, you're going to go after a Maxx Crosby type, or, maybe even big game hunting if Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland again in his annual tete-a-tete with the Browns. So, I don't think he fits.
One of the great travesties is that Myles Garrett will spend his whole career in Cleveland, or at least most of his career in Cleveland. You hate to see it. One of my favorite players of all time is Myles Garrett. All right, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. We will see what ends up happening with that. I'm gonna answer this for you, John, and I don't like to do that. Tyreek Hill. Hashtag no.
Hashtag no. Yeah. Hashtag no.
All right, good. We'll hit him with that. All right, we'll see who else comes to the market. I actually think Bradley Chubb could be a decent option, but I understand where John's coming from with his thinking on that. We will see what ends up happening there, John, as we get a little closer now to the NFL draft and things are coming. You got the combines next week. We're going to talk to Rick Saratella later in the week. I'm looking forward to talking to Rick Saratella. It's going to be interesting, though, John, because I do think what they end up doing here in free agency, obviously, will have a big impact on what they do in the draft. I mean, if let's just say for whatever reason that, somebody offers Jalen Phillips $28 million a year and the Eagles lose out on Jalen Phillips, does that immediately catapult the edge rusher position to number one, to your biggest draft need? Do you think they would go that with the first round pick? It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out for those type of reasons. But I do think they have a couple of different ways to go. I have OT, edge, safety, tight end, linebacker, wide receiver. I mean, where do you think the Eagles prioritize here in the draft, and how much you think it could change based on what they have coming in free agency?
Well, yeah, everything changes depending what's coming in free agency. So that's the most important part. That's why, a fruitless exercise in general. Mock drafts are completely, utterly ridiculous before free agency. Other than learning about the players, and we talk about, that's. But if you're again, because as you point out, well, if you sign Jalen Phillips, edge is off the market, or you trade for Maxx Crosby, then you're not taking an edge rusher. If you trade AJ Brown, you might take a receiver. But if you don't, you're not taking a receiver. So, free agency has a massive impact on what the draft will look like. And again, the need question is you don't. The good teams certainly don't draft for need. It's a bad way to do business, but there's also a lot of context to that. Again, you go into a process with, we have these needs and we have this group as a whole, this cluster of players. And if you have a solid situation, like if AJ's here and Devontae's here, you don't need a receiver. So you don't start thinking about that until later in the process. Same thing if you get Jalen Phillips back with Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt, a couple young, but you don't start thinking about that till later in the process. So it has a massive effect on drafting, massive effect. And more people need to point that out, to say the least.
But you
should.
Yeah, right. But you do feel like, offensive tackle is probably definite, right? At least in the first couple rounds.
Well, they've been looking for, they've been looking for that for years because of, wanting the heir apparent for Lane Johnson. So they've been in, that's been in the equation for years. And that's another thing, just because they don't take something doesn't mean it's not been in the equation, because they wanted that particular player for a couple years now. And the board just didn't fall that way. So yeah, that'll be on the top of the list, certainly, for sure, of that type of player. And that's why so many people had Caden Proctor mock draft early to the Eagles. Now you got the extra curveball. Now you're probably looking for a different style of offensive lineman than maybe in the past. More of a wide zone type guy who can stretch, who can reach block. So a lot of people have shifted to Caleb Lomu from Utah. But yeah, either way, offensive line is probably going to be certainly in the conversation.
Caleb Lomu looks a pretty good player, John. I'm not sure what you know about Caleb Lomu, but I
They
actually
have 2 good tackles.
yeah, they've too. Yeah, they got the guy who's probably going to be the first tackle taken, either him or the Miami guy. But Fanu, is it Fano? John, they mixed me up, these 2 tackles. They both got 4-digit last names.
Yeah, Spencer Fanu and Caleb Lomu.
Yeah, right. There you go. I like Caleb Lomu, though. The Fanu is amazing, but I think Lomu is a pretty good player too, man.
Yeah, he would, at least from a trait standpoint, would seem to fit better with what they're trying to do now in the running game. But we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. And but I do think Lane will be back, so that helps. You don't have to have somebody who can play right away, more of a luxury pick, and that's kind of enter your thinking again. Are the Eagles in a position to take a luxury pick after a 5-win season? I sneaked that in there. Maybe not. Maybe they feel they can't. So a lot of variables you got to add into the equation.
We'll see what ends up happening. Good stuff there, John. John, next topic I want to talk about, which I already feel like I'm blue in the face talking about it, but I need the real John McMullen truth on this topic. If the Eagles are going to trade A.J. Brown, and I know nobody wants to talk about A.J. Brown. Guess what? We got to talk about A.J. Brown. If the Eagles are going to trade A.J. Brown, John, what are they going to get back? I'm seeing all over the map. I'm seeing 1. I'm seeing 2. I'm seeing 3. You're going to get, that's the best you're going to get is a 3. What is A.J. Brown worth right now in the NFL? Does it change with guys like Tyreek Hill in the market for other teams? I mean, not that to say that the Eagles would be interested, but if there's other receivers out there for cheaper, maybe that changes what the bidding price would be. Where do you think the value for A.J. Brown lies right now if the Eagles were to move him?
Oh, they're not moving him for a 3. I can tell you that.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can add a player into the mix. You can trade, for draft positioning. You could trade the 23rd pick. Like if you want to go way up, you can trade the 23rd pick and A.J. Brown for a top 10 pick. Easy. You could go about it that way. But because of his contract, you're probably, and if you're not doing it in a more inventive way, you're probably talking about a 2 and then some stuff moved in. You'll have changing of draft positioning later in the process. Maybe a 5th turns into a 4th, a 4th turns into a 5th, that type of thing, which is now seemingly a part of every NFL trade. But I do think the contract prevents a 1st-round pick, just flat out simple, like when they traded for him. And his behavior is part of it as well. I think because even though AJ is a good guy and he's a leader and he's a captain and he's very likable, not a lot of teams that want to deal with the social media nonsense, to be honest. And he's demonstrated performance of going back, even though he's verbalized he shouldn't be doing it, and he goes back and does it. So I think that affects it as well a little bit, but they're not trading him for the 3rd round pick. I mean, you know, and they'll stick it out for the year and trade him next year or move on next year. But they're not trading him for a third round pick.
I agree. The reason I asked that is because I'm just trying to get a gauge on what type of assets they're going to get back here for the draft. I don't think it'd be for this draft, though, right? It would be for the future drafts.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're willing to not post June 1st, designate it and take the hit right away, you can do it
Isn't that too
before.
much of a loss? I mean, you're going to draft,
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. But if you want to increase the value, you take the hit. So depends how you want to do it.
It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing there. I mean, I do think they could use that extra draft pick there, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're going to eat all that money to get the draft pick this year. That's for sure.
Either do I, but and that's why it's problematic. And it's the best case scenario is to get them on board for this season and run it back. That's the best case scenario because there's too many salary cap issues to not be problematic at this stage. Yeah. So, I mean, the best case scenario is get them back on board and convince them that Sean Mannion is the second coming of Bill Walsh and everything's going to be great.
Yeah, that's a tough sell if you're AJ Brown. John, you've been using the phrase recently though. What is it? You don't want hostages? What's the phrase you've been using?
You want volunteers, you don't want hostages.
Right. Are you in that situation here with AJ Brown?
It may be that's kind of the point. If he truly wants out, no matter what, you got to move him. I mean, you got to move him. That's what happened with Carson Wentz, and they'll do it. But they're not giving him away. They're not giving him away. It's not in Howie's nature. But he'll find something. Somebody will be willing to give up. I did see, Bill Barnwell's. God bless those guys, because they're forced to do it. But they got to make up these trades, and I think his trade was. I'm trying to look it up. Let's see. AJ going to Denver. So the Broncos would get AJ Brown and a 2026 fifth round pick. Again, this stuff's hilarious to me. And the Eagles would get Riley Moss, the cornerback, a 2026 second round pick and a 2027 fifth round pick.